That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, I literally cannot wait. This is what we've been waiting for all year now. We have real football. We are going to be getting this going. We're going to be talking about some must-start running backs. And oh my gosh, guys, we're going to be doing this every single week. We're going to be putting out rankings. We're going to be putting out waiver wire. We're going to be live streaming almost every single day. So make sure you go down there, subscribe to the channel. And honestly, more importantly, for this channel in particular, you need to be hitting the bell next to the subscribe button because, I mean, we are going to be live streaming very often. You definitely want to come out to those live streams so I can answer your question. We're going to be trying to live stream at least every single day. I can't say every day because what happens if I get sick or something, but last year we live streamed every single day except 2. So far this season, we have not missed a single day of live streaming. So make sure you hit that bell. That way you know when we go live. And outside of that, guys, I mean, make sure you drop that like, leave a comment, and we're going to be talking about top 5 running back must-start players here. And of course, I'm not going to be talking about Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook. You already know to start them. We're going to be going to those guys that you may be considering, oh, should I play them in week 1? And I'm going to be trying to make an argument on why you should. But before we get into it, please make sure you go over to Underdog Fantasy. This is my favorite place to play fantasy football, and they're going to be doing so many fun things throughout the entire season with how you can get involved on this channel with me. And what is so great about Underdog Fantasy and this partnership that we have as well is if you go over there and deposit $10 with promo code FLOCK, you actually get $25 added to your account. You get our 2021 rankings, you get our 2021 draft guide, you get our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. That's like a $90 value. Please make sure you go out there and take advantage of that. And yeah, that should be it. Let's dive into this must-start running back video. Let's start it off with someone that I have been adamant that you should not draft them. But if you did, I mean, I guess this is where we are. You're at least going to get 1 week of fantastic production from Raheem Mostert. Okay, so with Mostert, I mean, this is a running back that I don't necessarily like for a multitude of reasons. We can go through them right now. There are very, very few players in the entire NFL that I would say are quote unquote injury prone that are actually at an increase for injuring themselves at some point this upcoming season. I think way too many people focus on the wrong details in fantasy football and cover just injuries. Guys, I mean, it's so hard. If you look at how random a game football is, it doesn't matter the injury history on a player. It is such a small sample, and we actually just have seen so many examples of this that if you were trying to predict an injury in fantasy football, if you're trying to identify a player as injury prone, I mean, more times than not, you are going to be wrong. More times than not, you're going to be taking away from actual analysis that needs to be had. But I will say every year, I think you have the right to go out there and pick about 4 or 5 players that you are only allowed to say 4 or 5 players on that list are at an increase for injury compared to others. And Raheem Mostert's going to make that for us. I mean, just injury after injury after injury. Another reason why I don't like him is because we have seen a large sample of him being a running back, not getting volume in his offense. He's a 29-year-old running back. I mean, gross. We don't want those old running backs. And at his 29-year-old age, you would assume that how many games has Raheem Mostert had 20 carries in? How many games has he had 20 touches in? You would probably guess 30, 35. He's 29 years old. Well, what if I told you that Raheem Mostert, the guy that everybody remembers from the 2019 NFL playoffs, the guy that everybody remembers some explosive plays on ESPN, he has had one game only with over 20 carries in his NFL career. He's 29. That should tell you enough about the running back that Raheem Mostert is. If you're going to be going through and making a bet on him for the entire season, that's a bad bet. This is also someone that, I mean, the team doesn't necessarily have that faith in. They go out there and they don't only draft Trey Sermon, but they actually sit back and they go, you know what? We need to trade up to get this guy. We have a hole at running back. Trey Sermon is the more talented player. Let's go and let's give multiple picks to move up and get Trey Sermon in the 3rd round of this NFL draft. So there are so many red flags with a Raheem Mostert. By the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs, he's going to be someone that you can't take anywhere close to your starting lineup. However, for the first part of the season, he is going to be the lead running back on an offense that's going to run the ball. So for the first 3 weeks, congrats everybody who drafted Mostert. Yes, you overpaid for it, but I mean, you're getting at least solid production for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And what is fantastic for you is he's going up against Detroit. Guys, he's going up against the Detroit Lions. So you actually have Raheem Mostert as We know he's going to be the lead running back. They're not going to be giving over that job to Trey Sermon at the beginning of the season. While yes, Trey Sermon will have the lead running back job by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs. That's when it actually matters. For week 1 in particular, Sermon, he's going to be the complimentary running back. Raheem Mostert is going to be the guy. And also going up against the Detroit Lions, if you look across the entire NFL right now, San Francisco has the largest spread. They're actually tied with 2 other teams to win week 1. They're supposed to be 7.5-point favorites against the Lions. That is massive, guys. And they also have a pretty big team total as well. They're actually 7th in the NFL with their implied team total for week 1. So we're looking at this going, he's the lead running back in a game that's supposed to be a blowout against a not great defense. And at the same time, we know he's going to be the lead running back for week 1 since Trey Sermon is that rookie. There are so many signs pointing to the fact that Raheem Mostert is going to crush this week. You need to start him, especially if you drafted him, because if you drafted Raheem Mostert and you're not starting him week 1 against the Lions, why the hell did you draft him in the first place? Because this is probably going to be his best game of the season. So I already know in week 2, we're going to get a lot of people in the comment section going, oh my God, Mason, did you see Raheem Mostert? You idiot. Why would you tell us to not draft him? Because your fantasy football playoffs aren't in week 1. That's why. So yes, start him in week 1. You still don't want him. Well, definitely, I can guarantee you right now, he's going to be on our sell high video going into week 2. I can guarantee you that. Now our next running back, let's go talk about a James Robinson. Okay, so with James Robinson, this is the perfect matchup that you could find outside of Detroit. They are going up against the Houston Texans. And while the Jags aren't going to be favored in that many games this upcoming season, you can almost guarantee that they are going to be the favorites over the Houston Texans. Right now, Vegas actually has it as a 3.5-point game. I was surprised to see that. I would assume that Houston would be a team that was actually lower ranked compared to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I guess Vegas just isn't giving the Jags credit for Trevor Lawrence automatically stepping in and being a vastly above average quarterback at the NFL level. I'm assuming that they're going, hey, this guy's a rookie. This guy's not going to be an above average QB, even if he's going up against the worst team in football. And I know we've had some people in the comment section saying, Mason, stop hopping on the bandwagon that the Houston Texans are going to be garbage. They're still an NFL team. No, the Houston Texans, I don't want to say are an NFL team. I used to be a fan of the Houston Texans way back when they had Andre Johnson, way back when I lived in San Antonio, Texas, because they were the closest team to us. Loved Andre Johnson, loved Matt Schaub. They were like some of the first players that I ever drafted in fantasy. But I want to root for the Texans. I can't, guys. This is a team that actually is supposed to have 3.5 wins, according to Vegas. This is a team that's going to get blown out every single week. And while James Robinson is not going to be the workhorse running back that he was last year, because we can acknowledge the fact that, yes, Carlos Hyde is going to be getting touches weekly here, James Robinson is still very safe, extremely safe to have as your running back to this upcoming week, because he's going to be the lead running back in a plus matchup. The Jacksonville Jaguars should be able to put up points against the Houston Texans. We don't know how much the Texans are going to be able to fight back and put up points on their own. So maybe this gets to a point where, we're just looking at it halfway through the third quarter and the Jags are like, okay, well, we're up by 2 touchdowns. Let's just run the ball. Let's just give it to James Robinson, Carlos Hyde, James Robinson, Carlos Hyde. And obviously you're not starting Carlos Hyde. You don't need me to tell you that, but James Robinson is someone you can go out there and throw into your starting lineup. And now I said that we were going to only get through 5 running backs, but you're probably seeing that this video is probably a little longer than 5 running backs. I have some honorable mentions, so make sure you're sticking around to the end of the video. But for our third running back here, let's go with a Melvin Gordon. And Melvin Gordon, very similar to Raheem Mostert. I told y'all not to draft him this season because, everybody and their mom knows. Even Melvin Gordon's mom probably knows that Javonte Williams is going to be the starting running back by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs. Javonte Williams will be the starting running back probably by the time we get to about week 8 or week 9. But here, Melvin Gordon is going to be that lead running back week 1, and it's a plus matchup. They're going up against the New York Jets, and I think the Jets have a ton of promise. I think the Jets made so many solid moves so far this offseason. A, they don't overpay for a running back. B, they go out there and they sign Corey Davis. Obviously, I've been a long-time Corey Davis fan. C, they draft Elijah Moore in the top 40 picks. D, they go and trade up for offensive line help to help their new franchise quarterback. D, they actually somehow find a way to get value for Sam Darnold. The Jets' new front office, the Jets' new coaching staff, they look fantastic, and I think it's going to be a team that in the back half of 2021, if Zach Wilson is strong, it's going to be a completely different team than what you've had over the past 3 years in New York. However, for week 1 against a rookie quarterback on a team that, has a new head coach, the Jets are probably going to be pretty bad. And I bet the Broncos are going to be able to win this game. And knowing that Melvin Gordon is going to be the lead running back for Denver, if the Denver Broncos are just going out there and being able to push the ball down the field and play in a competitive matchup, because that's what you want for Melvin Gordon. You want Melvin Gordon in a competitive matchup. And I'm kind of afraid that the Denver Broncos are going to get blown out of some games later on in the year. And in those games, we're probably not starting the running back, whoever it is, between Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon for the Denver Broncos. We're trying to start them in competitive games. And I actually think this is a game where you could actually have them go out there and be pretty competitive. Now, let's talk about one of my favorite games this week so far. This is going to be the game that we have between Tennessee and Arizona. I mean, I am going to be extremely excited to watch this. I think that this has just a ton of potential to be a massive shootout with Cliff Kingsbury and then the new offensive coordinator for Tennessee. We don't know what the pace is going to look like there. We don't know if they're going to run the ball. Maybe they actually pick it up a little bit and throw it with Julio Jones in the offense. However it is, I think that you're looking at the Arizona Cardinals. This is a team that should run a lot of plays. This is a team that should put up a lot of points. And they're definitely going to be the underdogs against Tennessee. However, I am expecting this to be a close-ish game, however. So I do think you are going to end up with Chase Edmonds with a ton of touches. So Chase Edmonds, I mean, we know that he is going to be someone that's getting utilized in the receiving game. And I know a lot of people are going to be bringing up Mason. They bring in James Conner. Guys, I'm not sure if you've realized this. They pay James Conner absolutely nothing. I mean, Chase Edmonds is going to be the guy that we're looking at here. And I think that he can get a lot of targets week one, because we also have to remember, I mean, while yes, Rondale Moore is going to be someone that's getting a ton of targets out of the slot this upcoming season, he is a rookie at the end of the day. And I think it would be very surprising to see Rondale Moore step onto the field and just see a ridiculous amount of touches. So I am slightly worried about a Rondale Moore with what he's going to do in taking targets away from a Chase Edmonds this season. I know they play two different positions, but Rondale Moore, not a prototypical wide receiver, very similar like a Deebo Samuel. I mean, they're going to be playing just very unique roles in their offenses. And I think Rondale Moore could eventually take away from Chase Edmonds. That's not going to happen in week one. However, I think instead you're going to have the veteran incumbent running back there getting the lion's share of the touches in a game that should have a lot of points scored. And I think that a lot of those touches are going to come in the form of receptions as well. So make sure you're going out there starting Chase Edmonds. And let's get to our fifth running back before our honorable mentions. And let's throw on Darrell Henderson onto this list. So I've already put out my running back rankings for this week, but I can probably guarantee you we're going to be moving Darrell Henderson up those. I mean, with a Darrell Henderson, this is a running back that we're looking at saying, well, I mean, he is playing in a game that is surprising with how much of a blowout it should be. And I did not expect this before we did the research and what we are actually having from these matchups. Vegas actually has the Los Angeles Rams as 7.5 point favorites this upcoming week. And we also have to remember, while yes, they trade for Sony Michel hasn't been in Los Angeles that long. So I actually think that we could see Darrell Henderson get a feature down role here while they still kind of figure out how they're going to implement Sony Michel into the offense. Because it's not like Sony Michel was a rookie that was drafted back in May. Then all of a sudden, I mean, he's going to have rookie mini camp. He's going to have training camp. He's going to have the preseason for all these coaches to figure out how they're going to use him in the offense. No, they just acquired Sony Michel. So I think Darrell Henderson's a very safe option to just go out there and get a ton of touches in week one in a game that should most likely be a blowout. And I know a lot of people, they hear Chicago and they just go, okay, great defense. We have to be worried about that. Guys, I hate to break it to you. Chicago is not the defense they once were. Chicago is not the defense we saw 2 or 3 years ago. Now, I understand that it's kind of, I don't want to say ballsy for me to say it. It's reckless for me to say that, considering that we have not seen them yet play in 2021 in a real game. But I think we can just look at what Vegas is telling us here with the spread, what Vegas is telling us with the overall projection on the Chicago Bears this upcoming season. And I think while I'm not a defensive expert, I mean, I think we can listen to Vegas and say that the Chicago Bears are not the same defensive team that they once were. Now, let's go with some honorable mentions here. And the first guy that we're going to have is going to be Ronald Jones. And this is going to be a ballsy call because obviously playing in the Thursday night game, I mean, Ronald Jones is going to be in a spot where if he comes out here and fails, I know you can laugh at me in the comment section. Y'all can go drop those comments letting me know how stupid I am. But we're looking at this and going, okay, A, Giovanni Bernard slightly banged up, so maybe Gio doesn't necessarily have the same role that you would expect right away. B, with a Ronald Jones, this is going to be someone that we want to be playing in games where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are heavy favorites. And right now, Tampa, according to Las Vegas, has the highest implied team total for week one out of any team in the NFL. To go along with this, Tampa also is in a position where the spread is my God, I did not expect Tampa to be this heavily favored, but they are, and we can't ignore it. So I think Ronald Jones could be in a world where right now he's playing in a backfield that Giovanni Bernard is not fully healthy. He's going to be possibly playing out in a blowout. And obviously the Dallas Cowboys defense, that's a defense that we want to be attacking. I mean, yes, we mainly want to attack it with the receivers, considering the fact that Dallas can put up points on their own right. So, you already watched the video where I go through and talk about how much I love Chris Godwin, how much I love Mike Evans. I mean, we talked about that in our wide receiver rankings. However, I think Ronald Jones is a very intriguing running back to have as an honorable mention, even though I know a lot of people aren't considering playing him right now, just in case we need to go a little deeper. And our last running back we're going to be talking about is going to be an honorable mention. I don't want to put him in the top 5 here, but he is intriguing in a Damian Harris. So with Harris, he's going up against the Miami Dolphins. And right now this game, at least I would expect it to be pretty ugly, to be honest. But what we can also look at is we can go, okay, well, while Damian Harris isn't someone that I love for this entire season, because we can be a little worried about Ramondre Stevenson continuing to expand his role in the back half part of the season. I mean, at least we know that Damian Harris is going to be the feature down running back there at the very, very beginning of the year. And to go along with this, we know that the New England Patriots are favored over Miami. So I think this is probably going to be an ugly game. I mean, they're going to have Mac Jones starting his first NFL game, so they'll probably decide to go through and lean a little more on the running game, trying to keep the ball away from Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins offense. I'd imagine that New England wants to play this, run the ball, play good defense, win the game. It may be ugly, but let's get it done. And I think that would really benefit Damian Harris. I mean, the matchup's there. And at the same time, I mean, we know Harris is going to be the guy that you actually want to end up going through and starting at least for the beginning part of the season. Now, thank you, my dudes. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure you go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, and leave a comment just asking any start sit questions that you may have. If you came out to the premiere and you leave that comment right now, I will be going through and answering as many of those as I can in the comment section. If you're watching this a few days from now, you're not getting your question answered, I apologize. Just come out to the live stream tonight. Maybe I can get to it there. So subscribe to the channel. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link in the description. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you, my dudes, and have a great day. Thank you to everybody supporting the show on Patreon. We got some new members in MCGC, Brian, Matthew, Craig, Ian, Woody, Colt, Marcus, Jack, and Nicholas. Thank you, my dudes.